Hi, I'm Father Joe. I recently heard a joke about three men who were discussing about their legacy. And they were saying, well, the question they were asking each other was, what do you want said about you at your funeral? So the first guy says, you know what I'd like? I'd like them to say he was a good man who worked hard and who loved God. The second guy says, you know, I'd love for them to say this was a good man. He took care of his family and he loved God. The third guy says, you know, I know exactly what I'd like them to say at my funeral. I'd like them to say, wow, he's moving. Let's go to this week's question. All right. We have two this week. Dear Father Joe, do we really believe as Catholics that the host becomes Jesus' flesh and the wine becomes his blood? Isn't it just a symbol? Well, to quote a great theologian, the Eucharist is a trip. All right, no great theologian said that. I did. But here's the thing. The Eucharist is a radical belief that we hold. Now, I could give you catechism references, but there's too many. Look in your index about the Eucharist, about what it means to us. And in the Bible, you can check out John chapter 6 and see Jesus explaining the Eucharist. But here's the thing. Brothers and sisters, we believe that that Eucharist is transformed into God's flesh and blood. Why? Why would we have something like that? Because Jesus desires more than anything to be a part of us. Jesus desires intimacy with us. He wants to enter in. St. Augustine said it best, become what you receive. We receive Jesus and we become more like him. That great quote, you are what you eat, that came from St. Augustine talking about the Eucharist. We receive Jesus into us and he becomes our breath, our heartbeat. We believe that in the Eucharist, Jesus enters into our bodies and becomes a part of who we are, our blood, our heart. He is our breath, our words, our love, and our life. What a gift. No kidding, brothers and sisters. The Eucharist is why I became a priest. Let's look at the next question. Dear Father Joe, when I receive the sacrament of reconciliation, how should I go about examining my conscience? That's a good question. And your question alone says that you're interested in doing it right. So that's good news for you. My personal favorite, I like to take a look at my life in general. I sit there in silence for a bit, and then I think about, where am I headed? It's a great question to ask. Where am I headed? Am I engaging in even little patterns that could be the start of something big and in a bad, bad way? Am I continuing a pattern of sinfulness? All of these things. That's a good way for me to do it. I like that a lot. I ask myself, where am I headed? Another way you can do it is to take a look at the 10 Commandments. Take a look at those and see how we stack up. But don't just go for the obvious here. When it's, well, I don't worship false gods, I don't have any idols in my room. I doubt if many people do. But is there something that we hold more important than God in our life, or that we act like it's more important than God in our life? You can also take a look at the Beatitudes and see how we stack up with that. That's another really good one. There are many ways to examine our consciences, but the goal is always the same. We look at our lives and see where we need God's mercy. The great thing is that God is always there to give it to us. We can make a terrible mistake when our whole examination of conscience is that we can pile guilt on us, because when we do that, we pretend that our sin is stronger than God's mercy. And brothers and sisters, that just ain't possible. Enjoy another day in God's presence.